Hello everyone and welcome to SUGTalks. I'm Craig Dale, your host, and together with our special guests we'll take a deep dive into the topics, challenges and opportunities facing SAP users today. Please make sure you do subscribe so you don't miss any of our future episodes. I'm delighted today to be joined by Ian Mallinson, UKISUG Director, and David Yawalkar, Head of Solution Management, RISE with SAP. So welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Hi, Craig.
Oh, it's great to have you. In today's episode, we're going to be discussing the cost of not moving to the cloud and the SUGEN Transformation Charter, that's the SAP User Group Executive Network. But what we're really going to be looking at here is, I think, some looming deadlines for customers who are on SAP ECC or an early version of S4HANA, and what that cost of doing nothing might be, and available pathways to the future. But just before we drop into that, I'd just like to ask you, if I may, what's a food you couldn't live without? Now, while you have a think about that, I mean, the first thing that comes to my mind is more of a beverage. So is it a food, is it not? And that's tea. A good cup of Yorkshire tea. I don't think I could live without a decent cup of tea. But then again, reflecting back on last night, I had about half a ton of those drumstick lollies. So I suppose sweets are going to be in there for me as well. But then, David.
Oh, I'll go with ice cream, I think. I'm a big ice cream lover. So in the German summer is not that long, but while it lasts, I go get a couple of scoops of ice cream almost every day after work, take a walk to one of the ice cream shops down the road. I love a couple of scoops of sorbet or fruit ice cream, so I'm a big ice cream lover. But there's plenty of food, but that came first to mind. So
fantastic. I do love ice cream. Thank you. Ian.
Well, although I'm no longer with Warburton's, the bakers, I did spend 15 years there. So it's perhaps no surprise that my choice would be Warburton's crumpets. They simply are unbeatable. Doesn't need to be anything other than butter on top, preferably two.
Oh, well, this is the thing. I've got a pack downstairs right next to my toaster, and the thing that frustrates me now, and I've got to say, is that I think they come in a pack of 12 or something, and they're stacked in 3. I've got to have 3. I can't really leave one.
Symmetry.
Of the stack.
You need the symmetry. Yeah, a pack of 6, and you need to have 3.
Anyway, thanks very much for that, gentlemen. Really appreciate it. And just as we move into our topic and to start things off, could you both introduce yourselves and tell me a little bit about your roles? And if I could start with you, David, please.
Yeah, sure. So first of all, again, Greg, thanks for having me, and a pleasure to be here with Ian as well, having a journey together in a collaboration effort we've been doing in the past month. So I'm responsible for RISE with SAP, so the package and the commercials. So my team is delivering the packages and the commercials for the RISE with SAP, or now we even call them SAP Cloud ERP private packages, as we love to change names of our packages. Been with SAP for 10 plus years, actually from university onwards. Started with SAP, started actually in the S4 public space when we were, starting with the cloud efforts. So I really started in the S4HANA public cloud area, then moved for a couple of years in the intelligence technology space around machine learning, IoT within SAP, and now for the past 6 years already, responsible for our private cloud offering. It was quite a ride. We got many customers, a lot of feedback on the way. So happy to be here. And yeah, thanks for having me.
Thank you, Ian.
I've had a career of 3/3. The first third was in operations management, kind of factory management type roles. Then I moved into supply chain, and then for the last 10 years, until recently, was the IT director at Warburton's. A wide and deep SAP landscape there, including a shift to S4 on-prem last year. And of course, we'll talk about the options for members making those moves as we get into this. But obviously, whilst I'm looking for my next opportunity to keep myself busy doing the volunteer work with the user group, I'm very much enjoying that. And that's really why I'm on this podcast. Is one of the things I've done recently is working with David with SUGEN, representing the UK user group in this transformation charter. Which is an acknowledgement that really all SAP customers are going to need to make this change, or in one way or another, and the clock's ticking on that. And David has helped the user group understand the pathways, and I very much enjoy being part of that process. And I think that's what we're going to step into next.
Mm-hmm. Thanks, Ian. Yeah, and I think just from my perspective, it's sometimes in the Waldorf ivory tower here, right? We think all customers always understand what we're doing. We're changing things a lot, and we're thinking, well, customers are just waiting, sitting for our news to understand them. So for me, it was tremendously important in this effort to understand and get feedback from various different customers. I think we are talking about 20 plus different SAP user group people that are part of the SUGEN network. It's for me really helpful to understand where the market is at, why are customers not moving, what is holding them up, what are they even understanding from what we are bringing out, as we have a lot of change, right? So it's great to get some knowledge insights. We've been trying to structure the charter in a way to start from a timelines point of view. What are the timelines approaching, and then moving through what are the offerings that SAP even has available in the cloud as they're changing, how to best implement them, what are tips and tricks around that. Then we have the big buzzword around clean core, talking a bit about that. And for me, the value comes from really working with you guys, getting feedback. So it's great to see we got people in the call from Australia all the way to APJ. It's criminal times that they dial into these calls, 11 p.m.,
exactly.
12 at night.
Commitment.
So the commitment is actually, it's so great to see, and it's for me an honor to see that it's relevant, that they engage. So they're not only dialing in, but engaging at these times of the day. So
Craig, is it 21 user groups represented in SUGEN, or I lose count?
I believe it is. It was I think it was 21 the time I last looked, and we're looking to increase it further, I believe, in the future. Yeah. But I think that's what one of the bonuses of the of SUGEN, if you like, that user group executive network that comes together from around the world to engage with SAP at a strategic level, all of us representing each of our company members, if you like, our customers, SAP customers, our members, like you said, Ian, you're there representing the UK and Ireland. David mentioned, all the way across to Australia, Japan, across the length and breadth of the world. And, so you touched on but we've all touched on there the Transformation Charter as such, and David, you alluded to it there. Can you give us a bit of background on that and what's contained within the Transformation Charter itself?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we try to do really a call once a month where we try to address different topics. So we really started with, okay, what are the current timelines that are existing customers looking at, what are approaching in terms of maintenance or use rights expiring? Then we looked at, okay, if customers are willing to move, where can they move to? What cloud offerings does SAP even have available? And as we're changing names of these offerings every now and then, also try to put some clarification in there. What's RISE today, what is the name of it, what's the offering. Then also SAP has broken the news with doing functional differentiation between S4 on-prem and the cloud version. So try to shed some light on where are we differentiating, what's cloud-only innovations. Try to also outline a bit on the tools and methodologies that SAP is offering customers to make the move, and then demystify buzzwords like clean core. What does SAP really mean by it? We sometimes had customers down here a couple of years ago that said they played bingo on how many times SAP says clean core in a meeting. I guess that's now gotten replaced by AI. But we had clean core for a long time. Then it was
used to
HANA
be
before.
HANA.
Exactly. So we always have one buzzing theme. And we now have, I think, even 2 topics open where we want to talk a bit about the security and operations topic of the cloud, and then really dive into what AI capabilities are even already available in the product. So these are 2 sessions we have outstanding in the charter. Yeah.
Thank you. And Ian, from a customer perspective, how has that been working so far?
Well, it's been excellent. I mean, credit to David and his team for explaining those things that you just described really, really clearly. And I think all the user groups got the understanding. I mean, within this, we all have to understand, yes, it's a transformation charter. All members and all SAP customers will have to make a variation of the steps we're going to talk about. But SAP are shaping things in a certain direction. And, members and customers might not always appreciate that, but there is a direction. It is cloud. And it's as well that we're all aware of that, and so that we can work out how best to navigate it. So it's been very, very helpful.
Mm-hmm. And for us, it's a reality check on how does it resonate. I mean, I love direct feedback and honest feedback, and I think not always everything that SAP does is the greatest gift, right? I know that we are doing some things where we need to collect feedback. We sometimes need to change course because we get customer feedback, and that's a unique opportunity to have so many different customers in one virtual room together. Normally, it's the other way around. SAP brings 20 SAP people to a customer meeting of 4 customers. It's great to see it the other way around this charter. So that's good.
Yeah, exactly. And it's great that we can share some of those things on this podcast.
So when I made the introduction, I talked about the cost of doing nothing, and that might sound really surprising. Like, what on earth does that mean? And so, especially if we interpret it as a cost of not moving to the cloud, because given how costly migrations can actually be. So, what do we actually mean by that? The cost of doing nothing?
Mm-hmm. I think from my perspective, it's the costs of potentially moving too late and then falling behind, right? There are different areas where you can think about when you think about cost of doing nothing. There are a lot of customers who are still on-prem, right? They have a lot of work also to maintain the system, to keep the system up and running, to keep the system protected against security threats, all that. So there's money to spend and effort to spend, which could be handed over to a cloud provider and then spend the focus more on strategic areas in the sense of AI, not missing out on latest innovations, right? I mean, SAP has made the move also to differentiate the product versions, only delivering certain innovations in the cloud, depending on how relevant these innovations are to companies. Customers may miss out on that, right? AI is, I think, the biggest one, right? Sustainability topics are another. So SAP has defined what cloud-only solutions or cloud-only innovations. So there is obviously a risk there of missing out of innovations that are actually making the work way more efficient. There are things in the operational side where obviously as a provider operating more than 100, I think 39,000 systems, I've just looked it up before this podcast, we actually know what to do in operating these systems efficiently, right? And I think that you could say that you may miss out on focusing your efforts on where it counts more, not on the table stakes of keeping a system up and running. Yeah, that's just from my side an initial take.
Yeah, and I like the title because it's for me it's a bit provocative. The cost of not, because I wouldn't say I'm not anti-cloud, of course, and all routes end there, but. I've been through a decision-making process recently about whether to move to the cloud, either just if you like, private hosted or RISE or stay on-prem, made the decision to stay on-prem. And that was largely based on cost at that stage. So in simple financial terms, probably a move to the cloud is more expensive. But the things that David has mentioned are real. The fact that SAP have got a clearly stated shift to the cloud strategy, and the fact that they're starting to differentiate between functionality of the on-prem S4 version versus private cloud and public cloud, our members and SAP customers need to seriously consider that. It's a commercial choice SAP have made. It's real. And so there is a cost, and we'll step into some of those things as we go through the rest of this.
And it's from an insight, Ian, that the costs made part of that decision. I also think SAP realized that we cannot always win a TCO case with customers that say cloud is cheaper for them. It may work for one customer, it will not work for the next one, right?
And I've heard that as well. Sometimes it can work out. I agree.
Some customers, they just have a hardware replacement anyway, then it works out perfectly. If you've just invested into new hardware, right? I mean, how can you make the case to move to the cloud? It's for one it works, for one it doesn't. So that's why the shift was more there to say we cannot always win in TCO. We need to convince customers in terms of value, bringing more value from a functionality perspective in the cloud. And I think, just putting myself in the shoes of our board, this is where this functional differentiation also resulted from, to say we need to deliver also value and more functional value and make it attractive functionally to move to our cloud products, not only by claiming we are the best operations, we have the best operations team in the world that does it at the lowest cost possible. They are good, they know what they're doing, but I think the TCO costs, you win one, you lose another, depending on the customer situation.
No, thank you.
We know our community, but we don't know yours yet. Why not share the benefits of your UKISUG membership with those who don't know about us? The UKISUG referral scheme rewards you for helping to grow and develop our community. You can check out the link in the description to find out more about how you can get involved. Terms and conditions apply. We hope you enjoy the rest of the podcast.
Just when you were talking there, I recall the keynote from our chair, Connor, last year's Connect annual conference, where he was talking about, many customers know it's ultimately to the cloud, as Ian said already, but sometimes it's a multi-stage process to actually get there. And when we're talking about multi-stages, processes, time comes into factor, and obviously the SAP landscape's changing fast, and there's lots of, I think, maintenance and other deadlines coming up. People talk about some in 25, 2027's the key one, then you've got 2030, 2033, lots of different things happening. So what are perhaps some of the key maintenance deadlines that SAP customers and our members need to be aware of?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so maybe let's start off with the very old ERP enhancement packages, or the fairly low enhancement packages of ERP 0 through 5. There we are approaching, and some customers we realize are not aware, the end of mainstream maintenance by end of this year, so end of 2025. So these versions will go into customer-specific maintenance starting January next year, right? Which is a drastic change.
So what does that mean? I know I think it's a really important point, and I hope there's nobody listening to this podcast that doesn't realize it, but there may be some. They're still on enhancement pack 4 or 5, and that support ends. But it moved to customer-specific maintenance at the end of the year. What does that mean?
Yeah, and that's not really a situation customers should want to be in. The maintenance support is very restricted, right? So there is no new legal changes. Let's say in UK the government changes something, you need to have a new field on the invoice. Normally SAP would deliver that through maintenance and support. That won't happen. So no legal changes, no support packages, very restricted availability of security notes, which is also something that no customer wants to be in. We don't guarantee for technology updates. We also don't fulfill new customer-specific requests on incidents, right? We only support on incidents that are already known. So if there's a new incident which has never come up before, and it comes up from a customer who is in customer-specific maintenance, there is no support on that, and we do not fulfill any service level agreements anymore. There's a drop in SLA. So these are really situations where you don't want to be.
That's not a criticism of SAP. You've got to move on, and I understand that. But I know members and customers that are right now going through the process to get to Enhancement Pack 8, scrambling through just to get that done before the deadline.
Yeah, and it would be an important one. I think you'll survive a couple of months in customer-specific maintenance, right? It's not the end of the world, but certain industries are not even legally allowed to be in such a state, right? If you're a pharmaceutical company, if you need to fulfill some GXP compliance and requirements, there's not even a way to be in such a state of a system, right? That's going to be a problem. Yeah. But then jumping back to these timelines, the higher enhancement packages, as Greg correctly mentioned, right, they have a bit more time. They have until the end of 2027, and then would even have optionally 3 years of extended maintenance available to them. So if they're on-prem, extended maintenance until end of 2030 comes at a uplift price, right? In ECC in the private cloud, so you can also lift and shift your old ERP into our private cloud. This is where SAP has waived the fee for extended maintenance. There you can also be until end of 2030. And then by end of 25...
That's what would have been called RISE, just to get the terminology.
Yeah, this is not called RISE. This is what we call ERP Private Edition. So it's basically the old ECC in the private cloud.
Old ECC hosted by you.
In the private cloud, exactly. The same operational model, same operations team, but just not S4HANA.
But just not S4. But if
we don't provide these additional goodies.
Extended maintenance is not extra cost.
Correct. Yeah, okay. This is where we waive the fee, so this is what many customers that are very large, they're sometimes taking this intermediate step to say we move to the private cloud first, and then we do the S4 conversion later, but we are already in the private cloud, right? That's what some customers, not many, but some customers prefer to do that. Another timeline that is approaching is the end of extended maintenance for the old S4HANA releases, 1709, 1809, 1909. These releases, we had some extended maintenance until also the end of 2025. This is also expiring. So these releases will also go out of mainstream maintenance into customer-specific maintenance. So also some S4HANA releases. So it's not only an ECC or ERP topic, it's also an S4HANA topic. And then there's another deadline by end of this year, which is not maintenance related, but it's rather a use right topic. So customers will lose the use right to use what we call the compatibility scope. Right? SAP has copied in the beginning of S4HANA times a lot of code from ECC into S4, where we said this is what we have not replaced yet in S4. That's why, dear customers, you can still use this old code in S4HANA with a time duration until end of 2025. Now we have end of 2025. Customers have not moved to the successor solutions, or some of them, which are now all available besides 3 exceptions that we prolongated the deadline for. But this is where we have also to do a lot of awareness in the past years that customers should be moving off it. We know that there are still quite some customers using this compatibility scope, but there it's not a maintenance topic. It's really a use right topic by end of this year. That's
an important one. So that members and customers could be blissfully on S4, thinking everything's quite nice and everything's fine, but they're still making use of embedded ECC functionality, which has been working fine. And then at the end of December this year, it will probably continue to work, but it will no longer be licensed.
It's a use right topic, exactly. So it's not, in this case, it's not a maintenance topic. It's really more a legal use right topic.
Legal, right? Contractual thing.
It will probably work, right? It's just that the deadline's closing out on that. So where customers should move to the successor product or successor solution that's available by now.
I know a number of members are working hard to get that shift done. But there are 3, aren't there, that carry on till 2030?
Yeah, there are 3. There is Elytra, exactly. Yeah. Then there's some customer service. Customer service until 2030.
And production planning, is it, in process? Process industries?
Correct. Yeah. So these 3, we have given 3 years or until 2030 in this case. Yeah.
But members, watch out for that. Don't be blissfully ignorant that you've got some ECC functionality working nicely in S4, but it's not going to be licensed.
You mentioned there the compatibility scope. Do customers see this from their perspective as the compatibility packs? Is that how a customer would see that? Right.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Get that.
And SAP has made the decision to extend the use right of this compatibility pack in the private cloud. So if customers move their S4HANA system into the private cloud world, so in the RISE or now Cloud ERP private world, this is where we have extended as well, whereas in on-prem, SAP has not decided to. So there's another differentiation between on-prem and cloud. Obviously, that's also something where it's a lot in discussion these days, but just for transparency, right? This is where SAP has made that strategic decision.
Okay. So you mentioned that move to customer-specific maintenance when these deadlines are hit. And you also said that a customer really doesn't want to be there, and you mentioned a number of things that customers will lose. You did say that a couple of months might be okay. When will the real pain hit, in your opinion?
Yeah, I think some customers can survive a couple of weeks or months in customer-specific maintenance if there's no crucial incident that they need to be resolved. Because, I mean, these releases they are stable, right? They are out there for quite some years, so there's probably not a lot of issues they may now suddenly encounter, right? It's just the risk by the weeks that go by, that the risk increases that something's happening where they need support. Then especially the legal changes topic, right?
Like
if there's a legal
for instance, David,
you don't want to run into a payroll issue. You don't want to run into the government deciding for a new legal law that needs to be complied, which you can now not fulfill because SAP is not. So what I'm saying is, I think the risk for a couple of weeks or a month is manageable, but it's still a situation that feels like any day something could come where you're not prepared for, and then the problem is then the upgrade or the move still takes you a project between, depending on what it is, for the 12 months, and then you're sitting in this situation for a time that you really don't want to be in this situation. And
no, thank you for that. And so, with those deadlines in mind, you've talked about a few things, kind of options. We've talked about on-prem. We've talked about private cloud. We haven't probably touched on public cloud as yet. So, when it comes to a customer for their next steps, from staying on-prem or moving to private or public cloud, what choices do customers have?
So overall, it's really, from my point of view, 4 different options. It's S4 on-prem, obviously, which is a valid option that many customers have pursued. Then it's S4 in the 2 different cloud deployments, public cloud or private cloud, depending on our go-to-market is mainly net new names, public cloud, installed base, existing customers, more private cloud, exceptions to that go-to-market, obviously. And then we have the old ECC in the private cloud as the interim step option, right? Importantly now, S4 on-prem, S4 public, and S4 private are now 3 different product versions with 3 completely different roadmaps. So that's important while making that decision to realize it's not like it's been a couple of years back where SAP always delivered in S4 public first and then once a year consolidated everything into on-prem and private. We're not doing that anymore. We now have different dedicated product versions with different dedicated roadmaps for these 3 products. But overall, it's the 4 I mentioned that are the options. So the 3 cloud versions and S4 on-prem. Yeah.
Ian, what are you seeing from a customer perspective there in trying to follow that map?
The David's tree diagram hasn't been unveiled to the world perhaps yet, but what he's just explained very nicely is orchestrated in a very nice diagram that hopefully we can include in the show notes, and that will help customers understand their pathways. But I think for those that move to S4 already, many of them will be effectively on-prem or on-prem hosted. But what I am hearing and seeing is, of course, because SAP has now started to separate out different types of functionality, the fact that, dual in S4 is only really if you're in the cloud, you will come onto this, but things like Green Ledger or other sustainability elements. The fact that separation's coming, I increasingly hear about members and SAP customers thinking, well, we're going to have to go the cloud route. But S4 on-prem is still an option, clearly. I mean, the other thing that we should bear in mind is that I also hear many members saying, well, we're just going to stay on ECC Enhancement Pack 8 and extend maintenance till 2030 to just hold on to what they've got for a little bit longer. That's definitely in some people's minds. Some people are thinking of stepping away. You could, we want to work and collaborate, obviously, with SAP, but some people might choose to step away from SAP maintenance. Some people might look to other ERP products. It's kind of a watershed time, isn't it?
Yeah. It is, yeah. And I mean, that's what we see also. And sometimes I think one of our biggest issues from an SAP point of view is that we've built a really good product a couple of years ago with our ECC product, right? And customers say, everything's so stable, I have no issues, everything's under control. Why should I even move? So I hear a lot the value case for S4, they're sometimes struggling. So we hear that. So we are putting a lot of effort in building that value case, right? Because customers are saying, it's working fine. And Ian, what you say, that customers are looking sometimes at maximizing maintenance until 2030 is something we also do hear from customers. That's why our effort is now trying to showcase them the latest values of S4 from a functionality point of view. Here's what you could have. And for some customers, AI is a reality already. For some customers, they say, well, it's very early still. I don't see the 100% value yet. So it really is different to what customers are looking for. But I think you described it nicely. I think we are seeing all these customer actions right now. Yeah.
David, Ian, thank you. Thank you so much for your time, and thank you for your insights. I really do appreciate you joining us today. Thank you for listening. We hope you enjoyed the conversation and found it valuable. And if you did, come back for part 2 of this thrilling episode on the cost of doing nothing. So please make sure you do subscribe so you don't miss any of our future episodes. Until the next time, stay safe, stay well, and remember, the only constant is change.